All right, today we're going to talk about someone whose inventions are probably in your house, maybe even in your car, but you've almost certainly never heard his name. In his whole career, it's this incredible story of what you might call maximum duration, sticking with a single, massive, world-changing goal for 50 years. So who was this guy?
So, let's start with a question. Think about the Toyota Prius. That's the car that basically made hybrids a thing, right? It took them from this kind of niche idea to something you see everywhere. But what is the one piece of tech under the hood that makes it all possible?
Well, the answer is a really powerful rechargeable battery. It's called the nickel metal hydride battery, or NMIH, and this thing was a total game changer. It was the first time we had the kind of energy storage and reliability to make hybrid cars a real, practical thing for millions of people.
Okay, so that leads to the big question, right? An invention that changed the world like this doesn't just appear. So who came up with it, and why don't we know his name like we know Edison or Tesla?
His name was Stanford Ovshinsky, and he was not your typical tech genius from Silicon Valley. Not at all. He was a self-taught machinist from Akron, Ohio, whose formal education, well, it stopped right after high school.
And get this, the contrast is just staggering. The guy has no college degree, but he ends up publishing hundreds of papers in physics and gets over 350 patents. His post-grad work? He did it at the Akron Public Library. And yet, Nobel Prize winners saw him as a peer, as a collaborator. That doesn't just happen by accident. It's the result of a lifetime of incredible focus, that whole maximum duration idea we talked about.
So you have to ask, where did that intense focus come from? See, Ovshinsky wasn't just tinkering and inventing stuff at random. No, he was following a master plan, a plan he and his wife, Iris, had drawn up decades before. And this is where that maximum duration concept just snaps into focus. This wasn't some project for a few years. This was his entire life's work.
Just think about the scale of this. We're talking 1960. This is years before the first Earth Day, before most people were even thinking about this stuff. And he and Iris are mapping out a totally complete fossil fuel-free energy system. They called it the hydrogen loop. So he starts a company, Energy Conversion Devices, and then spends the next 50 years building, piece by piece, every single thing needed to make that drawing a reality. That is the definition of a long game.
So how on earth did he pull this off? Well, he couldn't use the science that was already out there. He had to basically invent a whole new field. He looked at the scientific mainstream, and they were all obsessed with these perfect, orderly crystal structures. He just ignored them. Instead, he went all in on a field that pretty much everyone else thought was a total dead end, the science of amorphous, or what he called disordered materials.
And that defiance, that willingness to go down this lonely path for decades, that was the key to everything. So let's really dig into this idea because it sounds simple, but was absolutely revolutionary.
Okay, so you had all the experts at the big places, like Bell Labs, and they were all convinced of one thing. For electronics, you need perfect, ordered, crystalline materials. That's it. But Ovshinsky, he looked at the total chaos of amorphous, disordered materials, and he saw this huge, untapped potential. He was just sure that if he could learn to control that disorder, he could do things that were simply impossible with those perfect crystals.
And you know what? He proved it. He created something called the Ovonics switch. Here's how it works. He could take a material and, with a tiny zap of electricity, flip it from its messy, high-resistance off state to a neat, low-resistance on state, and then flip it right back. That simple idea of controlling disorder, that's the technology that powered every single rewritable CD and DVD. He took an idea that the mainstream completely dismissed and turned it into something millions of us used every day.
And once he had that principle of engineered disorder, he just started applying it to everything. It's how he made those NIMH batteries that could hold a massive charge for cars. It's how he created thin-film solar panels that you could literally produce on giant rolls, like you're printing a newspaper. And, amazingly, it's how he figured out a way to safely store hydrogen fuel inside a solid material, not in some dangerous high-pressure tank. But here's the thing you have to remember. None of these inventions were the end goal in themselves. They were always, from day one, just pieces of the puzzle, interlocking parts of that huge 50-year plan he drew up way back in 1960.
To really get what he was trying to do, you need to understand this concept in energy science called well-to-wheels. It basically means you can't just think about the car, or the fuel, or the power plant. You have to think about the entire system, from how you generate the energy, to how you store it, to how you use it. And Ovshinsky's ultimate goal, his maximum duration project, was to invent a brand new, clean technology for every single one of those steps.
And here you can see the whole cycle working. He made the thin film solar to generate the power. He invented the solid material to store that power as hydrogen, and then he actually modified a Toyota Prius to use that hydrogen, proving the whole system worked. Generation, storage, use, he solved all of it. The hydrogen loop was finally closed.
You see, for him, this wasn't just about making another alternative fuel. This was way bigger. It was a fundamental shift. As he said himself, he wanted to completely decouple us from fossil fuels and instead couple us to the most powerful, enduring things in the universe, the sun and hydrogen.
But for Ovshinsky, the tech was only ever half the story. That 50-year plan, it had a much, much deeper purpose. It was always about people, about creating good jobs, and honestly, about building a better, fairer world.
His argument was that fighting climate change wasn't a cost. He saw it as the single biggest economic opportunity in human history. His real long-term vision, the true maximum duration of his plan, was to use this new energy economy to bring back manufacturing jobs to places like Detroit, to give cheap, accessible power to developing countries, and to create real, lasting prosperity for everyone.
And this one quote, it just perfectly captures his whole vision. He used to show this photo of a Mayan woman in Chiapas, and she was carrying a roll of his flexible solar material on her back. To him, that was the whole point. High tech shouldn't be locked away in a lab somewhere. It should be out in the real world, helping people, empowering the poorest communities on the planet.
Which brings us to his legacy. He wasn't just an inventor. He actually called himself a conservative revolutionary. Now that sounds like a total contradiction, right? But it's actually the key to understanding the full scope, that maximum duration of his life's work. See, his revolution wasn't about theories or wishful thinking. The conservative part was that it was all built on 50 years of hard work, proven tech, and cold, hard data. Like he said, in God we trust, everyone else must show data. For half a century, he was just methodically showing the data, proving step by step that this whole vision was possible. And that really is the question his legacy leaves for us, isn't it? He dedicated his entire life to this project of maximum duration, and he did it. He built the blueprint. He invented the tools. The science isn't just a theory. The tech isn't some prototype in a lab. It's real. So the question he leaves us with isn't about invention anymore. It's about implementation. What are we waiting for?